Greetings, Legunus. Arndelft here, and Darktide is coming. Despite the current crap going on as our world eats itself through stupidity, we have some absolutely awesome crap coming to light. Darktide is essentially, from what I can tell, going to be Vermintide, but Warhammer 40k. And if I'm completely honest, that's everything that I want. I want a very close replicant of Vermintide, except in 40k form. Now, a lot of people, I know that Vermintide has a lot of its flaws, and you might be questioning that, going, I wish they didn't have that, or I wish they wouldn't have this. Personally, while I recognize the fact that Vermintide has a lot of flaws, I also recognize that there's a lot great about it. And the more Fatshark might try to dance around those flaws, the more I think they might mess it up. So, truth be told, I just hope they get as close as possible while making it more playable. What do I mean by that? Well, I have difficulty recording Vermintide, or even for that matter, sometimes playing it, because of, even though I recently upgraded my computer and it should easily be able to handle Vermintide, it still lags horribly while playing it sometimes, and yeah, there's not a lot I can really do about that. From what I've heard, a lot of people with computers far better than mine, who shouldn't even be able to have who shouldn't have the slightest issue playing Vermintide, do. So, besides that, I really hope they make it as close to Vermintide as it is viable to do so. Of course, one of the biggest differences that comes to my mind is the lasgun. Obviously, you know, melee-wise, you've got a guardsman with a lasgun. I'm just like, oh, you can stick a bayonet into the end of that. Definitely going to affect melee differently. But unless he's going to switch... I mean, what would be his melee weapon? What would be a guardsman's melee weapon? I think that it would be more lore accurate if they have a regular guardsman in there who doesn't have a chainsword, just, you know, his lasgun, you know, bayonet onto that, and he's like stabbing with the bayonet or he's smashing with the butt of the rifle. I think that would be an interesting nuance to the gameplay of, well, in Vermintide, of course, every single character has at least a melee weapon, and ranged is definitely a strong, not even a strong secondary. Some of the characters have strong ranged, but for the most part, ranged is kind of weak. Where in Darktide, I feel like it has to take on a much stronger theme, and melee is going to take on a little bit more of a back foot until you get strong melee weapons like the chainsword, maybe some power swords later, but of course we know in Warhammer 40k, power swords are actually a rarity. So, we could be dealing with the brutal chainsword for a while. And don't get me wrong, I love the chainsword. But I could see the power sword definitely being a more efficient weapon when cutting through swaths of enemies, especially if it's a high-quality power sword with a sturdy power field and the like. Makes me wonder, though, are you going to have to find new power cells for melee weapons, like the chainsword and the power sword? That, in my mind, would be an interesting nuance. When you run out of power in those weapons, you know, getting down to the bare bones of it, then you're just, you know, swinging around a regular sword or swinging around a chainsword with no juice. But I don't think Fatshark could get that right, because I think the power in these weapons would run out really fast. Okay, let me correct myself. Because I did say earlier that, you know, if it's a low-quality power sword or higher-quality, a lower-quality power sword would run out of juice far more quickly. A higher-quality one it wouldn't drain its power cell nearly as quickly, and it would last for a really long time before that needed to be changed out. If it was a shoddy one, that's either, you know, a chainsword with a bunch of meat and crap still stuck inside of it, so every time they get it revving, it's having to chew through meat that hasn't been cleaned out, or if it's just a really low quality chainsword, I could see that being a thing. I could. But anyway, moving on from that, all these theory and conjecture, I could theorize about this all day long, and I've got all kinds of excited thoughts, but essentially, the Fatshark, the creators of Vermintide, have been getting a lot of emails and messages about hoping that a Warhammer 40k version of Vermintide would come out, and people have been very excited about it, and they literally said, who are we to say no? And they do emphasize it's still going to be a co-op game, first and foremost, with the same type melee combat that not only are we proud of, but also that we are known for. However, we'll be giving ranged combat more complexity, thank you very much, of its own, to really bring it up to par, with the hands-on stuff. Our hope is that we can really deliver, on some truly hybrid combat that's both accessible, yet boasts a high skill ceiling, offering the same opportunity for mastery, regardless of whether you've got a lasgun or a chainsword in your hands. That was exactly what I was hoping for. I was genuinely just like, they've really got to make ranged combat have more complexity than it did in Vermintide. Alright, when it comes to the co-op, expect a similar 4-player experience that encourages you to work with your friends, or maybe even with new friends you just haven't met yet. So, a stranger's a friend you just haven't met yet. And I gotta admit, there were times when I was playing Vermintide where I was like, I would be having a better time if I were playing with bots. I admit that was sometimes the case. And it was sad. There are sometimes people who just either wouldn't listen, wouldn't be a part of the team, or I could tell just weren't really very good and were probably noobs who just needed some help. But either way, sometimes I prefer just to swing it with some bots. Problem is, in Vermintide, there was a time where I could not, for the life of me, find teammates. So I literally was open teammates the whole game. If anybody was searching for a veteran game, or I don't remember what the difficulty was, they could have joined my game. But no one ever did. And when I got to the end, I got defeated. And because I got taken down, the bots can't carry on the game because Vermintide haven't designed it that way. Fatshark hasn't. And I was so ticked. I was so ticked that when I go down, game over. I was mad. But, I understand how that's tricky. How do you get the bots to carry on with the game? But at the same time, I'm just like, ugh. I don't know. I don't know if Left 4 Dead ever managed to do that. I could probably go back and play and see if it did. If you're just playing with the bots, and if you get taken down, will the game continue? Will it end? I don't know. I haven't played Left 4 Dead in a long time. Anyway. Alright. Much like Vermintide, we want Darktide to be full of detail and respectful of the rich and spectacular worlds that Game Workshop has crafted over the decades. And I do admit, Games Workshop does have a way of crafting a lot of beautiful, in-depth, detailed worlds. They have many very skilled authors. Their video game departments are lacking in a lot of areas. But that's why I love that Fatshark is finally getting into it. Because, the regular fantasy Warhammer, it's gotten a lot of love from the video game industry. But the 40k variation have, in my mind, been disrespectful as all get out. They've been cheap, they've been shallow, and I've hated them. I have hated Warhammer 40k games. They're disrespectful to the lore. They flip it off on a regular basis. And they're cheap. They're freaking cheap. A lot of them are horrible. And I hate them. So I love the fact that they say that they're going to be respectful to the rich and spectacular worlds of Games Workshop. Just like, please respect the lore and understand that it's in-depth. It's not hard to access. You can get into the lore. Yeah, it's kind of iffy on like what are the genuine abilities of the Adeptus Astartes and other factions like that, of the Tau, of the Eldar. What exactly, are they when paired up against each other? For goodness sakes, there are a lot of issues in that regard. But you know what? Draw a line and stick to it. And in my opinion, draw a line where the exact canon is. Make it realistic. And the fans will love you. Moving on. We're madly in love with all things Warhammer here at Fatshark, if you didn't already figure that out. It'll be our mission objective to craft a truly unique take on the Warhammer universe, and we do believe that we have the experience to bring you a boots-on-the-ground 40k adventure that's unrivaled. I certainly hope so, Fatshark. I certainly hope so. There will be plenty of opportunities to get hands-on with Darktide before release, so be sure to sign up to our newsletter and add the game to your wish list for all the news, reveals, and testing opportunities to come. I sure as frag will be. With all that said, and with heaps more details to come as we move through development, all that's left is to welcome you to Automa Prime Convicts. The Emperor Protects. Now that last line, convicts, gets me thinking, are these guardsmen? Or is this a penal regiment? Are you going to be convicts that have been pressed into service by the Inquisition? Huh. I mean, you might think incredibly undisciplined, not true soldiers and the like that, but sometimes actual guardsmen get pressed into service as convicts or the like. You got to remember that. So these could be genuine soldiers. Other times they're experienced gangers who look at a mob of nurglings. They're just like, I dealt with this Tuesday at 5 o'clock in the morning for breakfast. And yeah, you mean some of those guys in the trailer, they looked nervous. But a couple of them were just like, here we go again. The two dudes on the left, I remember, yeah, they were just like, oh, this is normal. The two dudes on the right, they were just like, whatever. I mean, no, sorry. The two dudes on the right, they were skittish and nervous. But yeah, dudes on the left, they did not give a crap about a horde of chaos cultists that they just encountered. Just like, whoop-de-freaking-do. Let's just get into it. And I loved the difference. I loved the stark contrast between the nervous guys, one of which is an extremely nervous recruit, the dude with the flashlight that kept going out. Yeah, he came off as super nervous. But the dude with the plasma gun and the dude with the chainsaw, they were like, what do we care? So I could imagine that those two are just like hardened. One's a hardened guardsman, the other one's a like hardened ganger, and they're both just like, this is normal. And the other two, one of which, like, the recruit could actually be a fresh green guardsman who's just like super nervous about this whole thing. And then the other dude is a little bit more of a veteran guardsman. You know, he's dealt with combat before, but against humans. He's never seen the horrors of chaos before. He's never seen a mutant. And he's just like, he's nervous about this, but he has fought before. I could absolutely see that. So I hope they're not all convicts, but I would like that some were. Also, Fatshark, if you watch this video, please make one of these guys the option, like, to be an Adeptus Arbites. And it would go well with at least some of these guys being convicts. The Arbites is like there to keep an eye on them. It'd be like having the Witch Hunter. It would be a lot like having the Witch Hunter. Have one of them be an Adeptus Arbites. And if you want to learn more about the Arbites, read Crossfire, the Calpurnia series. I forget what her first name is off the top of my head. But the Calpurnia series, that will tell you so much about the Adeptus Arbites. They are disciplined, they are awesome, and they are uncompromising. You could have, just like you did with the Witch Hunter, you could have a lot of fun with an Adeptus Arbites. And I would love it if you dove into that. And I hope you do. I hope that you go across the Imperium and have some fun with different things that you can pull in. You want to know what else I really hope you do? Fatshark? Bring in a mercenary orc. Please, do it! A mercenary orc who's just there because he's being paid so he can get more flashy gets, and he's there to fight. Because while everybody else has got their reasons for fighting, when the orc comes up to fight, he's like, fight is fight! He's there to fight. So thank you very much. Put in a mercenary orc. Please. That would be awesome. He can be the tank of the group. The one who's just there to go crazy. Thank you very much. I would love it if you did. And he'd be very strong on melee and weak on shooting, which is kind of already where a lot of the Vermintide game mechanics already are. So besides, of course, having to program, York from the ground up. He'd be, of course, a lot bigger than the dwarf and stuff like that, but he'd be about as bulky as a dwarf. I think that would be awesome. And it would, gameplay wise, a lot like how you had it in Vermintide. Just do it. Do it, Fatshark. Okay, so for those of you, though, who are not a fan of Warhammer 40k, or, you know, you are, but you're really concerned that Vermintide is going to get left in the dust, they put a letter to you, too. A letter to the Vermintide community. When we first launched Vermintide 2, we knew we had something special. Heroes. When we first launched Vermintide 2, we knew we had something special. But the truth is, it has surpassed any of our expectations, with us now eclipsing over 5 million players across all platforms. Simply put, we are humbled. And eternally grateful for you, the community, is what has continued to push us by providing feedback and helping us make the game better than it has ever been. Or, has ever been. Yeah. Thank you for being a part of the journey and for playing and loving Vermintide and Vermintide 2. With the announcement of Darktide, we understand that you might have a lot of questions, mostly surrounding our commitment to Vermintide 2. The answer is simple. We remain committed to Vermintide 2. We are looking forward to the continuous development of Vermintide 2, and the next major DLC update is coming. Warhammer Vermintide 2, Chaos Waste. I am very much looking forward to that. However, I mean, we already are seeing chaos with the Nurgle. I was hoping that they would branch out into orcs or the undead. Those are two different directions that I was really excited by. However, with them dividing their attention between Vermintide 2 and Darktide, I can understand them essentially wanting to do something that's, I think, probably just going to be a reskin of the chaos they've already got. But I'm still going to be like, orcs. Why not? Orcs or undead. I would have been very excited about both of those. Chaos Waste, I'm just like, oh, we already had Chaos. So, I am going to rag on you a bit for that, Fatshark. I know why you made your decision, but I'm still going to rag on you. We are also already working on the next career following the positive reception of the Grail Knight, and of course, so much more that we are not ready to announce. And I was like, the Grail Knight did make sense. Kruber is an Empire man. He's not part of Bretonia. So unless there's some sort of lore dictating why Kruber would suddenly receive Grail Knight powers, I don't know why that would happen. I want there to be a lore explanation for that. Yes, I'm needy, okay? Lore is my bread and butter. Thank you very much. But anyway, I just want an explanation for that. I think the Grail Knight is cool and all, but I want an explanation. Moving on. We could not be more excited about the future, both for Darktide and Vermintide 2. We are Warhammer fans at heart, and the ability to grow the studio, learn, and deepen our efforts in the Warhammer universe, well, that is our passion. For Sigmar, Martin, and the Vermintide 2 team. I totally thought that when they said Martin, they were going to say Martin the Warrior. I know, I'm a Red Bull fan. Very few people are going to understand that reference. Moving on. All right. Okay, everybody. So, good news across most fronts. I personally take this all as very good omens. I look forward to Darktide, and I do look forward to Vermintide 2. Chaos Waste, even though I think that they could have definitely been more creative and branched out with that. But I understand their reasoning. They are dual focusing here. Doing a reskin of Chaos, I can understand why they're doing that. But hey, you know, I know Beastmen weren't what we were hoping for, but they are cool. They are cool to a degree. Anyways, everybody, I look forward to hearing what you have to say in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Are you excited about this? Do you have disappointments? What are they? Let me know. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from you then. And don't get into too much trouble, or do. But if you do, be smart about it. It's always up to you. Toodles.